And welcome into the Monday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Joe Rexrode live from San Antonio in preparation of the Natty coming up tonight. Rexrode, how we doing? How's the state of Texas? What's going on?
Yeah, doing okay. I guess you can see not a great placement of the desk here in my room at the La Quinta Riverwalk in San Antonio. So you have to look at my bed right behind me and stuff. But it's good. We got a Denny's in the parking lot.
Sweet.
It was 93 when I got here, and then yesterday I think it was 60, but the winds were 50 miles an hour, so it felt like 40. So I'm like, dude, this is not cool. So it has cooled off, but yeah, Texas is good and should be a good one tonight. Crazy game Saturday night.
Yeah, well, let's start there. So Houston makes the comeback. It beats Duke when it looked like Duke had everything under control. It's on the TV screen in front of me right now. Just a wild comeback there. A lot of people yelling about the missed call on Cooper Flag on Saturday as well. So, Joe, I'll just start with you, who was there. What did you make of what we saw in that game, the collapse by Duke / the comeback by Houston to advance to the national title game?
Yeah, it's just one of those games where at no point did I think Houston was going to win the game. At no point. It was they're good, they're tough, and they're doing, they're hanging in there. I mean, they got down 14, and a credit to them. They made it respectable, and they're right there to the end, and just not quite good enough. I mean, Duke is just too freaking good, and for the way that game ended, I mean, there just aren't that many games like that actually go the other way, and especially when you're in a national semifinal. I mean, it's worth remembering that as much as we talk about Duke as this historically good team, with their numbers and everything, second best Ken Pom team ever, Houston is the sixth best. So it's worth keeping in mind. But the difference is Duke has all these, they have Cooper Flag and all these other guys who are going in the NBA, and Houston really doesn't have, I think they have a couple guys who can possibly play in the NBA, but it's just that's where you look at the difference, and you're like, this is a bunch of pros, and usually the bunch of pros wins it. So it was a stunner. I mean, everybody was shocked, I think, in the whole building.
Yeah.
Obviously the Duke people were just shocked, but Houston and just everybody there was also like, what the heck just happened? So, and then, Florida on the other side flips that game. And it looked to me for a lot of that, not like Auburn was going to, Auburn, Duke, Broom, Flag. And then all of a sudden, boom, both of them are done a game short of taking it all the way to the end. Pretty shocking.
It was interesting. I saw somebody put out, I can't remember if it was ESPN or Yahoo or where it was, but there was a video out of the win probability, and they attached it to just the last minute of Houston and Duke. And at one point, Duke's win probability was 91-7 or something crazy like that. And then you make a couple plays and it just immediately switches. It was amazing how that all came apart there. So, let's bring up the call there. So Cooper Flag gets called for a foul going over the back there, and a lot of Duke fans very upset about it. A lot of people in general very upset about it. What did you make of that call on Cooper Flag and its impact on what we saw for Houston?
Yeah, when I saw it happen, it looked right to me. I was just I mean, it's one of those things oh my gosh, but I mean, it did look like he got him, then you look at the replay and it wasn't much at all. I mean, it's one of those things where it's could you argue that there was enough, because he kind of hooked his arm in there real quickly? Could you argue that there was enough there that technically you could say it was the correct, when they grade the film, will they call that an incorrect call? I don't know, but I hate the call. I mean, I hate the call at that point, and I understand the whole idea. We've talked about this before. It's a foul's a foul, and you're not supposed to officiate differently at the end of a game necessarily, but it's if Cooper Flag ends up with the rebound on that play, then I think then I think I'm okay with it, because if it gives him the advantage to get the ball, then okay, well, look, there was a little bit too much contact, but like that's, I guess I don't even know who would have actually gotten the rebound. If Roberts didn't get the rebound anyway, then like you just gave him the points to win the game,
Right.
So yeah, I didn't like it was ticky tack, and I mean, to me, that's one of those where, like, even in the first 10 minutes of the game or middle of the game, it's the same thing. I was like, gosh, that's a ticky tack call. So if it's a ticky tack call at any point in the game, then it's a ticky tack call. So I didn't like it. I mean, but people act. It's not like it's not the Saints Rams call. It's
Right.
not that bad, but it was not great. Not
So,
great.
so who we got? Florida and Houston. You got Florida, who most people believe was the best team heading into this based on the way they ended in the SEC tournament there. Florida has made it to this point. They get past Auburn on Saturday. And then there's Houston and Kelvin Sampson and that story. It's a great matchup on paper. What do you make of the national title game tonight between Florida and Houston?
Well, Florida has the best player in the tournament. That's the thing. Is those two? I mean, Cooper Flagg's right there too. I mean, he had a ridiculous. He was like 27. He filled the stat sheet, but Walter Clayton Jr. is the best player in this tournament. And I mean, again, the other night, it's just like Auburn's really not doing anything wrong, but there is. It's probably being overdone now, the whole Steph Curry thing with him. And he's not Steph Curry, and he's not going to be Steph Curry in the NBA. But there are similarities in just it doesn't matter what you do or where he is on the floor. Oh, there goes he just launched a shot, and even though your whole defense is designed to not let him take a shot, he took it and he just hit it too in your face. From 26. So I think Houston's better, and I think if Houston's defense can hold Duke to one basket in 10.5 minutes, I think it can put the squeeze on Florida. Like it's the best defense. We saw what they did to Tennessee. It's legitimately just an absolute monster of a defense. But when you have the best player, he could still, they could do all the things they do, and he could take some of these shots that, think about the shots that Tennessee had to settle for in that game against Houston. For him, that might be, that might be 6 threes that he hits in the first half. So I guess I would pick Houston, but he is the wild card, and he's on a run right now. I mean, the only person who's in this tournament ever scored 30 plus in both the Elite Eight and the Final Four was Larry Bird in 1979. So he's on an all-time tear, and if he's going to have a night like that, I think, for them to win.
It's pretty good company on that front. We did see a national championship yesterday that was completely dominated with Gino Auriemma, Paige Beckers, and the UConn women winning yet again, Joe. So that is national title number 12 for Gino Auriemma. They win 82-59 in a game that you looked around in the third quarter of that game, Joe, at one point, and UConn was up by darn near 30, and it was like, good Lord. And they were just out there rolling against South Carolina. So what a performance by them. And it ends up being a team that goes 37-3. And as a 2 seed, I think as the tournament went on, you clearly recognize as the best team in the field. What a performance by UConn. And Gino gets his 12th national title yesterday.
Yeah. Now he did have to wait 9 years.
He did.
So, I mean, so which to me, I think was good for the sport. I mean, I think that the last decade of getting away from the boring UConn destroying everyone stuff has been great. There's been a lot of things that have been great for women's basketball. Of course, Caitlin Clark, and we got other stars who are coming up, and it's great momentum. But another thing is just like more parity and getting away from just the same old UConn stuff. So, I mean, I guess him having to wait 9 years, there's some comfort in that. But yeah, 12 is ridiculous. And they're just flat out the best team. This South Carolina team, they just didn't have stars, like
Yep.
they've got some young players who I think are going to be, but they just like a lot of depth, a lot of talent. Obviously, Dawn Staley is a great coach, but that's the difference. UConn stars are like playing like stars. So good for them. I mean, I think it's cool for Paige Beckers to get a championship, and I think she's obviously going to be another huge addition to the WNBA and the sport now that she's back healthy and everything like that. But Tennessee, does have they can now make Tennessee beat the national champion this year.
You're darn right.
So there you go.
I'm
Which is
glad
pretty
Gino
wild.
got his last one before Kim Caldwell goes on a run here.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do to catch up, but it'll only take 12 years.
I mean, she's got a chance. They got a good recruiting class coming. It's going to be pretty exciting moving forward to see what they do. Speaking of Tennessee, by the way, I don't know, did you see the Jalen Carey from Vanderbilt to Tennessee? Yeah. And talking a little trash about Vandy. I need to find this, but our buddy Ryan Shumpert got him on the phone. Did you see this quote?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, so for people who don't know, Jalen Carey, who I thought would be back, and I think would have been good to be back for Vanderbilt. And they also lost Jason Edwards, by the way. So, it's kind of like another kind of having to not start over, but Mark Byington has got to get right. This is the difficulty of program building, is you can, even if you figure it out in the first year, which was, he did an incredible job, you can be right back to almost square one right away when you didn't necessarily have to be, or you didn't necessarily think you would be. But yes, here we go. This is Jalen Carey to Ryan Shumpert. Says, quote, "I'm a Vol now, man. I don't care about no black and gold. I bleed orange now, man. I don't care about what they've got to say." End quote. There you go.
Jeez.
The portal era. I bleed whatever the color of the school that's paying me more this year. And I hate the last colors that I was wearing.
Well, we all know,
There you
Jacoby
go.
Gillespie now a big time Vol as well. He's always bled orange, and here he is, newest member of Tennessee, along with Jalen Carey.
Now, see, with Gillespie, like that's he grew up in Tennessee, went to football, so like that, like that actually adds up. I mean, that's a huge get for Tennessee. We'll see. They have more work to do. They have to go find that scorer again, like they have the last 2 years. Connect and then Lanier. But getting Gillespie is a big deal for Rick Barnes. To me, that totally changes the math on what they could be next year.
We'll take your thoughts on college basketball from the weekend. We've got Florida and Houston in the national championship game tonight. The UConn women win yet again their 12th national title under Gino Auriemma. And as Joe mentioned, some movement on the portal front that has benefited to this point the Tennessee Volunteers. We'll see what more comes on that front. Also, an interesting move by the Titans and a high-level draft prospect this weekend as well that we'll get to. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Our NCAA men's basketball tournament updates presented by Toyota. Fuel your adrenaline at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Also brought to you by thenewcumberland.com, Twin Peaks, and Bet365. We're taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Aaron on the text line says, we're getting a noise complaint from the La Quinta, room 206. Let's keep it down in there, Rexrode. Watch the noise level.
I mean, I'm trying to do my golf play-by-play voice right now, you know?
Big week for that.
I mean,
Masters coming up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Rexrode's very
because we
excited.
obviously, yeah, super. I'm so pumped. But I mean, I'll watch, again, I'll watch the last few holes Sunday if it's close.
That's good.
So that's better than nothing. But yes, I will gradually uptick my volume. Once we get once we get to 7 a.m., I think I'm not going to be in here screaming and yelling. Hopefully, I mean, I guess it's always possible, but I think by 7, I can at least talk at a little bit more of a normal voice. But right now, I mean, this is better than when I had do the show that one time, or like I guess there was one time in LA, one time in Seattle after Titans games, so it was 4 freaking a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the whole show, you have to just be like, okay, so anyway, Julio Jones, he's gonna have a great year, isn't he? After what he did yesterday at Seattle.
By the way, shout out to Julio Jones, Titans legend, for his decision to retire over the weekend. Think he's going in the hall as a Titan, Joe?
It's funny because it's funny because when that happened, we had at the Athletics sometimes things like that'll happen, and they'll send you a Slack and be like, hey, we're doing something on this, and can you put in some analysis? So they asked, it was like our Falcons writer and me and someone else, for analysis. And mine was basically I mean, I'll do some analysis, but it will basically be, here's one of the biggest mistakes John Robinson made as GM. So, well, congrats on your retirement, Julio. You were a huge mistake here in
Total
Nashville.
bust here.
Yeah. But it's true, But amazing career.
He did.
Great player. And, he had a run there in Atlanta where, I mean, he was, it was probably, the debate was probably for a little bit Julio or Antonio Brown, right? And that was probably for a little period of time there.
Yeah, I mean, Julio did it for a long time. He was at a high level for a long time. So that level just happened to totally end when he came to the Titans. So stop me if you've seen that one before. Yeah. Really amazing how that one goes. Speaking of the Titans, Joe, an interesting development over the weekend. Jim Wyatt put this out there first, and it's garnered the reaction ever since then. Said that after the pro day on Friday, the Titans were supposed to have a private workout with Sanders and Hunter, and that the parties agreed to cancel the private workout. And specifically to Shedeur Sanders, here's what Jim Wyatt said: the Titans have seen 4 years of game film, scouted multiple games, and have now attended a pro day that they described as very impressive. So no private workout between the Titans and Shedeur Sanders. Joe, your thoughts on that development and what it means for the draft process here, with the Titans saying, yeah, I don't think we need to see a private workout with Shedeur Sanders.
I'm glad that the pro day was very impressive. That's first one ever.
It's important to point that out.
So is Jim suggesting that this means anything other than they're drafting Cam Ward?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, I would think that there's a good chance that this is on the Shedeur side. Do we need to waste our time here anymore with this, guys? You know what I mean? I mean, because I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's something that, if you're on Shedeur's side of things, if you would get into that idea. But I mean, if it's are you guys, if you're drafting Cam Ward, then let's just move on, And the thing is, I guess the one thing about Shedeur and everything is, if the Titans are resolved on Ward, we have talked about the scenario where, oh my gosh, look at this offer that comes in late, and this changes everything. And then what if it were for from the Giants, and if you really like Shedeur, is he close enough that you would then take him and he would be your quarterback? Plus, you add the picks. I mean, to me, that'd be a pretty good scenario, better scenario than just taking Cam Ward at one. But I mean, to me, then I have to look at this like not only are they taking Cam Ward, but they view this as a gap that's big enough that they wouldn't take Sanders if they switched up in this draft. So why waste anybody's time?
Let me
From here.
just say this. If the Tennessee Titans end up with Shedeur Sanders after all this, Joe, I will give them the ultimate tip of the hat. I mean, this is going to end up being like the most elaborate little misdirection that I think I've ever seen at the draft level for somebody that holds the number 1 overall pick. If they end up with Shedeur Sanders, this is an impressive smokescreen that they've thrown out there.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty freaking amazing. When did this come down exactly?
I believe this was either early Saturday or late Friday. I can't remember which one.
Yeah. Okay. So it was after all of our shows.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Because I was going to say I'd be interested to know if Stilly still thinks that this is like what they want to do.
Yeah.
Is actually get Shador. Yes. I love that.
We don't want to see any more of him. We're going to draft him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to think that's true. I'd love to see a curveball here. I think I would take him over Cam Ward. So, that's just me. But yeah, I think this is pretty clear. Like they're just drafting Cam Ward, and we're just going to sit here for a couple weeks and they're just drafting Cam Ward. Okay, everybody. So get excited about Cam Ward because he's going to be your quarterback.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to get anywhere else other than that. We've left the door open for a trade possibility. We're going to get into, I think, a really interesting tidbit that came out over the weekend about a potential trade for the Titans here in just a few minutes, which I read and I was like, huh, well, that kind of tells you something. We'll get into that here in just a few minutes. But I mean, right now, I mean, it looks like a foregone conclusion that Cam Ward is going to be the guy. And if you're a Titans fan, get ready. We're going to find out one way or the other if they finally found the quarterback of the future that they've been looking for a while. I bring that up, Joe. There was an interesting piece at The Athletic from Jeff Howe that put it out there, and there was one comment in particular that he brought up that if you're a Titans fan wondering whether or not they're going to trade out, I think this will make you raise your eyebrows a little bit. We'll get into this coming up next. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans, the decision to not have a private workout with Shedeur Sanders coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will have Diana Rossini from The Athletic later in the program. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8:30. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders, the Titans, and the draft process here. Titans cancel a private workout with Sanders over the weekend. So, Joe, I was reading up on this because I think one of the stories of the draft is going to be where exactly is Shedeur Sanders going to go, and how far does he fall? Does he go 2 to Cleveland? Like, is that going to be what it is at the end of the day? Is it 3 to the Giants? Does he fall down to the Saints? Does he fall down below that? We're going to get to here in just a few minutes the rankings that the Athletic has come out with the consensus big board. And you're not going to find Shedeur Sanders near the top of that big board. Just a spoiler alert for you. So we'll get into that a little bit later here in the program. But I read a piece that Jeff Howe came out with live from Boulder, Colorado, right after the pro day for Shedeur Sanders. And it talks about kind of that being the interesting story here in the draft of where exactly is Shedeur Sanders going to go, and the evaluation of the Browns, the evaluation of the Giants. And it's interesting. It gets to the Titans here. And I'll just read part of what Howe said here. It says, quote, "Of course, the Titans could still move the top pick, but that doesn't sound likely at the moment, especially after they declined to get involved with top free agents Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers, according to league sources. The Browns and the Giants have inquired about the Titans' interest in trading down, according to league sources, but the Titans haven't even determined the level of compensation they'd require to consider such a move." That was what Jeff Howe put in there, Joe. Have not even determined the level of compensation that they would require to consider moving. I thought that was really interesting, Joe. Like, it's one thing to have not determined the level of compensation to move out of a pick when it's like, right after the combine in March. It's April the 7th. Like, the draft is in a couple of weeks here. So I realized we talked last week, Joe, about being disciplined and taking your an approach of due diligence. And technically, there is still some time here if you're the Titans and you're interested in trading out. But Joe, that's just another log on the fire to me of, like, when you're factoring all this together, the lack of moves that they made on the veteran free agent front, the canceling of the workout with Shedeur Sanders, and then you've got Jeff Howe putting it out there that the Titans haven't even determined what they'd be asking for to consider a move to trade back. I mean, it all just continues to add up to Cam Ward's going to be their guy at number 1 overall. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to conclude anything else. I mean, I guess they could say to that, this is part of what we've been talking about, which is the disciplined approach, which is go through the process, and then at some point we're going to get together. Okay, let's say it out loud. Who do we like? And then, okay, now I guess we can, now that we've gotten there, okay, now we can be more specific with teams who are calling. I'm just spitballing here. Like, is that what it is? Again, I think we keep trying to find different things other than just, they've just decided, like, they've been all in on Cam Ward for a while. I mean, the actions, and that is, I think, a very interesting nugget from Jeff. The actions all kind of add up to that. I just, like, I guess I haven't heard anything quite like this. I'm not saying this is like some kind of like radical way of going about things, but like, if teams call you, a couple weeks ago, I mean, how many times has Mike Borgonzi been like hanging out with Joe Shane, here and there at different things? Every time they talk, Borgonzi's like, I still have no idea what we would take. Okay. I don't know. Like, obviously, I just assume all those conversations would always have, like, okay, yeah, all right. How about a second next year? How about if I throw that in there? Yeah, it's still not quite there. Every single conversation is just like, I don't know. Thank you for telling me that information, but I don't have an answer back for you. It's very interesting. But yeah, like, you keep circling around, like, we keep circling around just what looks very obvious, which is just they're just taking Cam Ward.
Well, we mentioned the timing of some moves to to move out of number one, like going back to the Chicago and Carolina deal that happened, I think in early March when that move was made. Doesn't have to be that way, but it does kind of feel like when you're making a big move to move up to number one, that rarely happens like on draft day. Like it's just very, very odd that they would happen that way. Now, I do go back to the Titans trading with the Rams in 2016, which happened on April the 14th. So it was later in the process than what we are right now. It was still before the draft and still, you had some time if you're both the Rams and the Titans, because that's the other thing. You're like, if the Titans are trading back, they probably want to know exactly where they're trading back to, Joe. So they give themselves some options as to how they're going to play it when the draft actually comes. So I think if we get to draft day and there's not a trade back, I'd be stunned if there was a trade back at that point. But just timing wise, it feels like if teams are moving up to number one, that usually happens significantly in advance of the draft. And it just doesn't seem like it's going that way. I mean, if it's going that way, like I understand trying to be disciplined, right? And taking the disciplined approach. And that's clearly been a talking point from Brinker and Borgonzi. And that's the way they're trying to do things, which largely I think is good. Like, I think if you can be as detailed and disciplined as possible in this draft, that's great. But like, if you haven't even determined what you'd really be listening to yet on the draft compensation front, that to me kind of tells me where you're leaning. And at this point, based on that information, I would be stunned if they trade out.
Yeah, I can't. I still would like. I hope at some point they're like, okay, here's what it would take, and even if it's like some absurd, answer, just so the other team on the other end can be like, okay, thank you, finally give me a freaking answer, man. So maybe they'll get to that part of the process, but yeah, it's just it just seems pretty clear. Yeah, Skylar's like, what? Y'all think the Titans are taking Cam Ward? We had no idea.
A true stunner.
Well, look, I have been different points during this process. Again, I would say we were pretty sure they weren't a month ago, right?
Probably around there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it had things have changed on the outside. On the outside, again, trying to read tea leaves and read into comments, and obviously we're reading into actions. But yeah, as we continue to advance, it's like, yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say in terms of on the whole trade thing or whatever. I mean, it'd be fascinating. Well, look, we're gonna have Diana on later.
Yep.
And she said last week that there are at least some people inside who have preferred or have pushed for whatever, however you want to phrase it. I don't remember exactly how she phrased it, but for trading down. So that's very interesting, and it makes sense. But again, the actions, what they've actually done, all say Cam.
It was interesting. Like we bring up the headline for what the Titans did over the weekend of canceling the workout. The private workout is going to be with Shedeur. It also means though they canceled one with Hunter too. So you do have Travis Hunter that is, I think, pretty universally viewed as at worst maybe the second best player in the draft, depending on how you view Abdul Carter and the injuries and all that. And they did cancel the workout with him. So I found that to be pretty interesting too. It's not just Shedeur Sanders that they didn't do a private workout with. You can cross, I guess, Travis Hunter off the list too.
Yeah. So with Travis Hunter, I would say, I mean, I guess you could say the same thing like Jimmy White said on the Sanders thing. I would say that doesn't stop you from drafting him, right? I mean, you know what he is as a player. But yeah, it's almost like when you do that, it isn't it kind of like, you know what, like really, like we don't want to waste your time because we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you see the one route that Travis Hunter ran at the pro day where it was like a 5-yard in cut and he ran like the most ridiculous route ever of just he was just bouncing around. I'll have to send you the video. It's got a lot of reaction.
Send me the video.
It's pretty funny. Like it's like a route that you would never under any circumstance run in a football game that would actually accomplish anything, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I have the whole film of the pro day. I was going to go through it today. But yes, if you could send me that might expedite the process. And then I could just spend 1 second watching the Colorado Pro Day.
Well, you're going to do a whole breakdown later today.
No, I mean, hey, I still say that's the move. I'm still holding out the hope that the Titans just go up there and just say, Travis Hunter, thank you. And that's that, but probably not going to happen. So also in this How piece, uh, I mean, it sounds like, that it could be Hunter and then Carter,
Yeah.
2-3. And then, of course, if that is the case, what kind of a potential fall are we talking about with Shedeur Sanders? It could be a big one.
Could be. And speaking of that, the Athletic has come out with their consensus big board. So it's taking information from a lot of different NFL draft experts and kind of putting them in one board here. And some of where players rank in that to me is very interesting. And if NFL teams view it the same way, could be a very interesting draft coming up in terms of some of the players we've talked about. We'll get into that coming up next. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll have Diana Rossini from The Athletic coming up at 8 o'clock on the program today. Rossini at 8, Corey Curtis at 8:30. A lot of high-level football talk coming your way. Taking your thoughts on the Titans in the NFL Draft, 615-737-1025. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill. Jared, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, what a crazy weekend with the weather, guys. Hope everything's all right.
Same to you.
And everybody else. But like decisions and scenarios like this are what got me leading or just not have a lot of confidence in the Titans' decision making because, again, it was reported last week or a couple of weeks ago that Breaker was not going to go to Colorado. Then he rushed out there. And then did the word get out? Is that what you think happened? That Shedeur knew that or found out somewhere while they were there that they were taking Cam Ward and that's why they canceled it? Or do you really just think that they're like, yeah, let me get one more look at his pro day throwing? No, nobody. Oh, yeah, we're okay. And then they just decided to wrap up because this is what infuriates me. Like I just want your all's thoughts and opinions on it. But yeah, not a lot of confidence in our brass. Tighten up.
Thanks for the call, Jared. I love the tighten up at the end of that. Joe, your thoughts on the messaging there from the Titans and Shedeur Sanders?
I love the sort of like sad tighten up, the less than enthusiastic tighten up, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I definitely don't think it was like they went to pro day and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. I mean, what my understanding is, he had 5 incompletions, 3 of them were drops. I did see the one deep ball he threw, which I thought was a pretty good. I saw one of the deep ball. I don't know how many he threw, but I thought it was a pretty good showcase of he has a legitimate NFL quarterback arm. He doesn't have the crazy arm, but yeah, I don't think it's that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe this was just the plan, was like to go out there, do the do the due diligence. You've gone through this process. You've had them into your building. You've done all these things. You now, whether you say it to each other or not, you certainly aren't saying it publicly, but you're taking Cam Ward, and so you're like, okay, at this point, we don't need to go any further than this. I guess that's how I would assume it went. But I don't know.
So Austin Mock of The Athletic came out with the consensus big board over the weekend, which basically combines a bunch of different NFL draft experts and puts them all on a board here from consensus view to show where these players rank. So you're not going to be surprised, like Abdul Carter's number 1, Travis Hunter is number 2. When you look at the consensus boards around the league, Joe, and from different outlets, you'll be hard-pressed to find anybody other than those two in number 1, number 2. Now, some people have Hunter number 1 and Carter number 2. Some people have Carter number 1, Hunter number 2. It's just it depends on kind of what you're looking at there. Ashton Genty's moved up to number 3, who seems to be about as good of a running back prospect as you can get out there. So
absolute freak. Someone is gonna be really happy they got him, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you got guys like Tyler Warren, who, by the way, speaking of people canceling workouts, there are some teams around the league, Joe, that were like, yeah, we don't really need to see Tyler Warren work out. Like there's nothing wrong with him. I think he's a blue chip prospect, so we'll see what that looks like. It's interesting to look at where these quarterbacks rank when you get through the consensus board here. The Ward part of this hasn't really changed all that much. Like he has been, depending on where you look, somewhere around 9, 10, 12, 14, like kind of basically in that area since basically the beginning of the draft process here. And if you look at the consensus board at The Athletic, he's at number 12. So they got Cam Ward at number 12. I think in the previous ranking that they had for him, he was number 13. So he's moved up a spot. You go down, and I was looking. I was like, all right, cool. So Ward's at number 12. Where is Shedeur Sanders? And I kept looking, and you get to the 20s, and you're like, well, I don't see him yet. You get to the late 20s. It's like, man, I still don't see Shedeur Sanders. He's number 32. So 32 on the consensus big board ranking is Shedeur Sanders. He was at 33 previously. So he has been right around there on at least the Athletics consensus board here. They've got Jackson Dart, by the way, at 53 for reference there. So those were the top 3 quarterbacks rank on the consensus board. 12 for Ward, 33 for Sanders, or excuse me, 32 for Sanders, and 53 for Jackson Dart, which gets back into the conversation, Joe, that a lot of Titans fans have pointed out, and I think rightly so. It's like, man, are we really, with the number 1 overall pick, potentially taking a quarterback who is viewed as maybe like the 15th or 13th best player in the draft?
Yeah, and this also goes along with what Charles has been telling us, which is, the gap. You have the gap from between Ward and Sanders, which according to this is 20 spots, and then you have another 21 spots between Sanders and Jackson Dart. But yeah, it's I totally get it, and so some Titans fans are excited about Ward, and again, I do agree. I mean, Corey has said this. We've talked about this. What the quarterback class is collectively doesn't really matter. It's just what your pick is.
Right.
And if your pick is great and works out, and if everybody else stinks or what, it doesn't matter. A bad quarterback class has limitations on what it really means, But Ward in particular, again, you are about to take the guy number 1 who is a consensus, not top 10 prospect overall in the draft. So, I mean, it goes along. It's just what it is. He is not one of those guys as a prospect that you get excited about, and everybody knows what's going on at the very top of the draft. It has gotten to this. Doesn't mean it won't work out. Doesn't mean he won't be great, but it's just, he's just not, as a prospect, the same level of a lot of these guys who have gone 1 overall as a quarterback.
Oh, by the way, we had a conversation with Kuharski on Friday about the idea of either a James Pierce or a Luther Burden falling down to 35 and being available for the Titans in the second round. And James Foster did a really nice piece at paulkuharski.com kind of breaking down that possibility. Pierce is 20 on the big board at the Athletic. Luther Burden is 23. So strictly from a value spot, Joe, if one of those 2 guys made it down to 35 and were available, obviously you've got some concerns with Pierce and the attitude and the character and all those things. Burden, if he's there at 35, you could be getting potentially some good value from a talent perspective if one of those 2 guys end up being there at 35.
Yeah, I think that just hammers home. It's just hard for me to believe that there isn't going to be a team that, I think for both of those guys, but before the first round ends, that there won't be someone in that back end of the first round who would be like, oh yeah, I just, if either of them were to fall, I think that's easy to me. I mean, I'm a big Burden fan. I know that there's, again, people get picked apart during this process, but I think he'd be. I think that'd be huge if we get to 35. And obviously, we talked about Pierce. Pierce is easily a middle first round talent. So I'd be surprised if it happens. But yeah, if for whatever reason either of them did fall, I think that'd be it. And then you'd be like, are you in a spot where there's someone trying to come up and get to that spot? Then how do you weigh being able to get a real value pick there versus being able to maybe move back and get more picks?
Yeah, by the way, on the Vol front, just speaking of that, like Dylan Sampson is 63rd on this list on the consensus board. So you're talking about a top 64 ranking for Dylan Sampson, which surprised me a little bit when I saw this. I mean, they got Scatterboo at number 80 overall. So I did not expect to see Sampson that high on this list, but apparently he is.
He's going to be a good player in the league too. I mean, Sampson is going to help a team. But yeah, personally, I have a little bit of a, Scatterboo, man. Whoever gets Scatterboo, I might become a fan. I might become a fan of that team instantly. Whoever drafts Scatterboo,
615
is out there puking and then just running over people.
A
right
mighty
away.
Team that will not yield.
Ooh, maybe the Lions. There you go.
Could go 3 backs with the Lions. Just never pass.
Yeah, why not?
615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Had a conversation with Kuharski on Friday about something that I think really surprised some Titans fans, and I want to get Joe's thoughts on it coming up next. We'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode live in San Antonio in advance of the national championship game tonight between Florida and Houston. We'll get back into that a little bit later in the show. Diana Rossini from The Athletic will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into the Titans with her. Corey Curtis from News 2 for his weekly visit, joining us at 8:30 later today. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Joe, real quickly before we get to this piece on the Titans I want to get to, you heard it in Keyser's update there, and I want to get your thoughts on it really quick. Apparently, Jalen Milroe has accepted an invite to be at the draft in Green Bay. Now, typically, Joe, I think most of the time when these players get an invite, it's because they think that there's a chance that they're going pretty high. Now, I don't think anybody believes that Jalen Milroe is going in like the top 10 or anything. I don't see a lot of people that believe he's going in the first round. So I saw that, and my eyebrows were raised a little bit. Like, could Jalen Milroe sneak into the first round? What do you make of Milroe getting the invite to be at the draft in Green Bay?
Yeah, that's weird. I don't like it. I mean, I don't like it for him because I don't think he's gonna go. And again, this process involves, like, the NFL tries to get a sense for things, but I mean, they've obviously been wrong in the past. I mean, we just saw it with Will Levis, right? Everybody was sure he was. They had a feeling that it was. I mean, everybody did that Levis would go in the first round. He didn't. So he ends up being, all night the camera pans to him and then maybe spends a little bit too much time on his sisters and girlfriend, while he's sitting there. So I guess, like, people could look at this and say, ooh, there's a team that told the NFL they're taking Jalen Milroe in the first round. I just can't buy that. I think this is a bad idea.
I guess we'll find out. I mean, I was like, wow, he's going to the draft, huh? He might go in the third round.
I mean, I guess as long as you don't have expectations, if you're him, and it's like, I'm just going to go be part of it, put on a nice suit, hang out with, some friends and things like that.
Go down the slide at Titletown over there.
Yeah, there you go. Like, who will he? I mean, he's got, Jihad Campbell will be going in the first round, and gosh, that's wild too. Now that we're talking about it, it's like, geez, I'm looking at this big board, and boy, the lack of Alabama guys is actually stunning. I mean, I hadn't even considered this, but, like, so Jihad Campbell, we have as 17th on this consensus, that Austin Mock did consensus big board, and then you got Tyler Booker,
yeah, and
then you're going to Milroe at 87, right? There's no one else in there. Milroe at 87.
Isaiah Bond used to be there, and then he left.
Yeah. He's been one of the I guess character question guys, but Milroe, I wish him the best. He's fun to watch. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, and I continue to say, after last year and the way that it turned out and the way he played, especially in the second half of the year, like, to me, that's like a look, man. You can, you can make really good money in college and try to get better before going to the draft. But, I mean, if he goes in the third round or something like that, you're still gonna sign a multi-year deal, and it's probably, I guess, you can still make the case that that's a better decision for you. But he's not gonna go. I mean, he's just gonna sit there.
I would be stunned if he goes.
If someone takes him in the first round, then that's confirmation that, like, the NFL can actually get a team to tell it that it's taking somebody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, but if you're the league, I just feel like you at least have to have the conversation. Like understand, like, you are gonna, you may not be drafted.
You can get very familiar with the city of Green Bay. You could be there a while.
Yeah, I as a college beat writer, every year, guys I covered would go into like the draft, and then you're kind of keeping in touch with them and keeping in touch with their agents and stuff, And one thing you realize doing that for a lot of years is like everybody has an inflated view of where they're going to go. The agent tells them higher than they're going to go. They think it's higher than they're going to go. And it's always like, yeah, I'm probably like a third round pick, and they go in the sixth. Or yeah, I'm probably about a fifth round pick, and they're UDFA. It's just like, this is how it goes, But if Jalen Milroe thinks he's the first round pick right now, that again, unless there's that one team that absolutely loves him, that's just an incredibly inflated view of what he is as a prospect.
So we had an interesting conversation with Kuharski on Friday about the PSL sales for the new Nissan Stadium and how they're going, I think, a lot better than most Titans fans would expect. Had the conversation Friday. PK said he was going to write a piece later that day at paulkuharski.com, and he did. So, Joe, I'll just read a brief snippet from it from you. And again, you can check this out in full detail at paulkuharski.com. Says, quote, the Titans' poor 3-year performance and disappointing 2024 season have not affected PSL sales for the new Nissan Stadium as much as many outsiders might expect. Franchise was optimistic all along, and things have gone even better than it anticipated. It talks about how the premium seats went on sale in June of 2024, and the team expected that period to run to February 2025, but the tickets sold out a whole lot faster than anticipated all the way back in August of 2024. Tickets are more expensive, and PK also brings up in this piece, Joe, that the Titans are seeing an increase in corporations who are buying tickets and will be entertaining clients there at the new stadium. So we talked about this briefly on Friday. There were some Titans fans that texted in and called in basically to the point of, yeah, I don't believe it. Like, there's no way the ticket sales are going really well for the Titans right now. But apparently they are. And PK points it out that, there's going to be a reduction in the size of the stadium, obviously, which is going to lead to less of an opportunity for the average fan to get in there. But apparently, PSL sales for the Titans in the new stadium, despite the dumpster fire that they've been for the past couple of years, are going really well. Joe, your thoughts on that? Are you surprised? Are you not surprised? How do you view that?
Yeah, I'm not that surprised because it's a long term. I mean, right? Like it's kind of like getting in the ground floor. And yes, obviously the product is bad right now, and there's a lot of reasons for it that are not very very exciting for Titans fans. But you also understand the cyclical nature of this league, and if you don't get in now, I mean, you could you could lose out on like seats you might want. And like you said, there's a lot of other things going on with this stadium. Like if I'm a Titans fan, I don't want to hear that it's going well. I want my owner to have to pay and suffer for what has happened with the football product, But this is, if you own a football team in this league and then you build a new stadium, like it's going to go well for you. So it's just how it is. But if I'm a Titans fan, I don't love hearing this because I want there to be a consequence for all the mismanagement that has happened. The bottom line is the most important thing that's as bad as the football product has been. Amy Adams Strunk getting this thing built and getting the public funding she got, record amount of public funding, is, I mean, she's winning right now in the last several years at a high rate, even though her football team is not.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we'll take your thoughts on that. What do you make of PSL sales for the Titans? Apparently for the new stadium going really, really well. Are you surprised? Are you not surprised? And how sustainable do you think that will be moving forward? There's a concern that I've got with it that I think is becoming more and more prevalent in sports that we'll get to as well coming up next. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. This week's Nashville's best deal is from 12 Stones Crossing Golf Club in Goodlettsville. They offer 18 championship holes spanning over 6,800 yards with the meandering Madison Creek as its centerpiece. Get half off a $50 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Check out 12 Stones. I can vouch for it. Very good golf out there. So looking forward to getting out there as the weather continues to cooperate this spring. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Discussing PSL sales for the Titans. Kuharski putting it out there that things are going very well on that front for the Titans. Are you surprised by that? Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Ben to the program. Ben, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. So, well, it doesn't surprise me at all because when you consider that most corporations that are moving here, the newer ones, are not fans of the Titans, you know, they're going to take those tickets and, you know, for what they are, they're actually a pretty good price when you consider it, getting in on the ground floor. And then you can entertain your guests and you can see your favorite team and fill the stands with other team fans, you know, and that's unfortunately how it goes. And, you know, especially a lot of the people that are well off that are moving here from out of state, again, they're not fans of the Titans, but they get to see their teams, and then they'll give away the tickets that they don't want to go see. You know, I'll hang up and let you talk about it. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Ben. Appreciate it. I mean, I think that's an interesting point for sure, and I'm sure that there's a lot of that going on. Brendan in Madison says, the new stadium reminds me of when Detroit moved the Pistons and the Red Wings to Little Caesars Arena. Both teams were awful and not selling tickets, but the brand new toy couldn't keep people away. We do have one texture that says a little bit of insight here from someone who was quoted PSLs. Initially, they were insanely expensive, and then a second meeting happened when they turned into actually very affordable and good deals. Titans are feeling the heat and prices across the entire sales platform, and that's how they're selling. So, Joe, what do you make of all that Ben just called in and some of the feedback we're getting on the text line about the PSLs?
I think Ben's dead on. There's no question. And look, this is the reality of new stadiums. You know, this reality of you know, home arenas in general in sports now. It's much more corporate. It's much more geared toward a luxury and toward, frankly, people with a lot of money. And it's and the opportunities are lesser for people who, you know, who don't have all that extra income to spend. And there's a very corporate, you know, presence that's going to be there. That is there. I mean, I'm at the Final Four right now in San Antonio, and you know, there's a lot of fans from you know, the teams, you know, the other night, of course. So they packed the stadium, but there's also just a ton, thousands of, you know, corporate tickets at events like this to Super Bowl. I mean, you know, but it's like that. And so, you know, what does that mean for the atmosphere? You know, I don't know, but some of those primo seats are probably a lot of times going to be people that don't necessarily give a crap, you know, which is not great. But that's just the reality of things. Also, that's a really interesting point on the PSLs. Did PK talk anything about that, about price reductions?
No,
stuff?
it didn't. We didn't get into all that. So I'd be interested to know if that's true across the board or if that's just an individual thing. And I don't know. Like, I think it's clear that, you know, as multiple people have pointed out on the text line, you know, there's a lot of corporate money that's coming into our city. A lot of people moving here. A lot of companies moving here. So in a way, that's a good thing, Joe. Like, you've got some more corporate backing, which is important. I guess the concern I would have is, what does that mean for like the average fan? What does that mean for the atmosphere at Nissan Stadium? I'm not necessarily surprised that PSL sales are going well right now because we've talked about this. I think when you've got the shiny new toy and people are, it's not just Titans games that people are worried about. You've got concerts that are going to be coming in there that are going to be used throughout the year with being an indoor stadium. You've got the Final Four that we think eventually is going to be there, the college football playoff, WrestleMania. I mean, there's a ton of things coming there that people want to get in on the ground floor of. I mean, I guess you could throw Super Bowl in there too, but it's kind of its own thing. And I don't know if it's going to make it a whole lot easier, even if you have season tickets to get in for the Super Bowl, but we'll see. Like, there's a lot of people that want to get in on the ground floor of those stuff. So as people have pointed out here, there's a newness of it that I think makes it pretty easy to get in on the ground floor of. How long does that continue if the product on the field doesn't substantially improve. I don't know. Like, I don't know how long the bright, shiny new toy kind of has that effect on people. What I do worry about is if it is more of a corporate atmosphere, how does that affect the average fan trying to get in? And how does that affect what the atmosphere looks like when they are good again at some point, Joe? Like, I remember when the Titans first got here, and I realized that our sporting environment as a whole, not just with the Titans, is way different than it was in 1999. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. But I remember, like, when they first came here, that was a crazy place to play. Like, people talked about that being one of the best environments in the league. And it's been a long time since it's been that. So I just wonder how that affects things from a corporate standpoint. And when you're talking about the average fan, what that looks like from an atmosphere standpoint when the time comes, I hope, when they are eventually good again.
Yeah, you still want, you want your stadium to be a good atmosphere. I mean, look, what's happening here has happened at other places in this league, and like typically when a team is good, you usually you get pretty good atmospheres. They've been, I mean, just recently at Nissan, they've had some incredible, think about like the Bills game, Monday Night Football Fusion. I mean, like, you're right. Like back in '99, that was, I mean, around the league, people were talking about, man, the Titans have like a college football, it's a college football state. It's a college football environment in the NFL. Like that was a big deal. I think it's probably, it's going to be a lot different from that. But of course, there's other things that this stadium will have. We'll have all the amenities that, of course, Nissan doesn't have. But, I feel like there will be a corporate feel. But if you have a really good team, you're still going to get really good atmospheres. Now, when will that happen? I have no idea. Chris on the text line says, I got my ticket Saturday, got better seats, not paying much more than I am now.
Yeah.
Surely this team can't suck forever. So, I mean, it sounds like some people have got some good price points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think when PK initially threw this out there on Friday, we got a ton of reaction right away. It was like, there's no way. Like, because I think a lot of people have looked at this, Joe, and they did see a price increase, and they saw what it was going to cost to get PSLs in the new building. And a lot of Titans fans were just out. They're like, I'm not doing this. Like, I either can't afford this, or I don't want to pay the premium that it's going to require to go watch this terrible football team play. And we got a lot of reaction from that immediately. Now, I do think the corporate money's part of it. And I do wonder, like, how much adjusting had the Titans done since the initial kind of price point release here. Like, it seems like, based on the text line, there have been several people that maybe were out at first and then saw a price reduction and found their way in there. So I don't know if that's across the board, but we've gotten several texts to that effect.
Yeah. Keith says, I'm a Titans fan, never owned season tickets ever. My wife and I want to buy tickets just so we can sell them each week to visiting fans and make money. There's a few messages to that effect. And yeah, I mean, you can, again, this is not confined to Nashville. There's fans of teams in different cities, college and pro, buy tickets, and then like they'll sell the one where they know like the visiting fans are going to come in droves and will pay top dollar, and then they pay for their season tickets or close to it for the whole year based on just selling one game, and obviously here the opposing fans want to come here for a weekend. So you got a lot of opportunity.
You imagine the vibe that's going to be in that building when it finally opens and Creed gets in there and plays a concert. It's going to be incredible. Just sold out Creed at the new stadium.
Dude, they wouldn't let Creed play in like the lobby. I mean, come on. They wouldn't let Creed. Like what
are you talking about? They just got in Bridgestone and Ascend Amphitheater over the last calendar year and was just rocked out around here. They're going to Nissan Stadium at some point.
Yeah, if Creed, this stadium, this is like a stadium where like, this is where Taylor Swift will play, right? This is where like the biggest bands will play. If Creed gets that, it gets a gig at the new Nissan Stadium, I will show up with Creed painted on my face. Okay,
don't say things you don't mean.
Whatever that means.
Don't say things you don't mean.
I'll dress up as Scott Stapp and show up and like do the wave. There's no way.
Oh, I can't.
I'm putting it right now on the record.
Okay.
Grow out your hair too.
I mean, if there's ever a reason for them to just hold a concert there for the heck of it, this is now it. I mean, we found it.
And it doesn't count if they're like part of like a Monsters of Rock and they play 3 songs.
No. If they're in the stadium, you're showing up with a painted face. Let's head to our
Okay.
1025 The Game phone line. Welcome in Mike to the program. Mike, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I'm in section 133 now at the current stadium, and they give you a credit, and I don't necessarily think that the prices have dropped. What it is, they told me that the next wave, meaning like, they did all the premium seats first. The next wave, which is like the upper deck and all that, was what was going to go on the market next.
Okay.
My agent was like, yeah, that's when they get more affordable. I could have taken the credit that I got now and basically transfer that over to the upper deck and not had to pay another dime. But to stay in my same section, which is now considered club level at the new stadium, I had to move over to about, it's 136 actually. But they give you 3 years of basically same as cash financing. So you get to finance your whatever you have left for 3 years, and that's what makes it affordable.
Okay.
Had they not given me that, then I would have probably just taken my credit and, took something, whatever I could get in the upper deck. But the fact that they give you that same as cash option, that's what makes it affordable. And so that's why I was able to stay down close to where I am now. So that's all I got, guys. Have a good one.
Awesome. Really good stuff. Appreciate the call, Mike. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans and the PSL sales that are apparently going really well. More of your thoughts to get to on that front. Plus, an awesome moment in sports this weekend that is worth bringing up that we'll get to as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Win an exclusive Jason Aldean experience. Text in the keyword Jason to 615-737-1025. Receive a link to sign up for a chance to win all-inclusive tickets to the Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena to see Jason Aldean, plus also a chance to win $1,000 in cash as well. Again, text in the keyword Jason to 615-737-1025. Diana Rossini from The Athletic will be with us at 8 o'clock. We got a lot to get into with her on the Titans front, so looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. A lot of thoughts on the Titans PSL front. Continue to keep those rolling in. We'll continue to get through that throughout the show and throughout the week here on the program. Joe, a cool moment in sports this weekend. Alex Ovechkin breaking the all-time goals record in the NHL. He tied it on Friday. It was an awesome environment in Washington. He got the 2 goals, tied it up. It was a crazy kind of reception there. And then he had, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 great chances at the end of the game to break the record at home. He wasn't able to do it. They did pull the net, and he pulled the goalie. And Ovechkin told the coach, I don't want to score the record-breaking goal on an empty netter, so he didn't. And then yesterday, he just fired a wrist shot from the left circle on a rush, Joe. It was a very vintage Alex Ovechkin goal. He drilled it. He gets to 895 and scored the goal yesterday. The place went insane in New York. They stopped the game. Gretzky came out there and gave a speech, and there's a new all-time goals record in the NHL. I caught up with Steven Stamkos after the game last night of the Predators, and to get his thoughts on Ovechkin breaking that record, here's what Stamkos had to say.
Yeah, amazing. I came into the league and he was just getting going, and he's a guy that even for me, you look up to and just marvel at the longevity. He's basically been, a horse his entire career, doesn't miss many games, scores a ton of goals. He's lived up to the billing, him and Crosby. Those are the 2 faces of the league since I came in, and they're still going. So, no one thought that record was ever going to be touched, including Ovi. I think he said that. So just a marvel and a joy to play against him and have some great games against him over my career, and, watch a lot of those goals.
So, Joe, a very significant accomplishment for the sport of hockey, and what a weekend for Alex Ovechkin getting to 895 and breaking the all-time goals record.
Yeah, pretty amazing. We talked about this at some point, like early in the season, we talked about it. It's like, I think at one point we were like, it's probably next year at some point, he'll probably, that's probably when it will time out, that I didn't think there's any way that he would do it this year. So it's remarkable. And it's been really cool to see, Gretzky be as involved with this as he has been. I think that's awesome. That he's been along for this ride the way it has. You talked about last week. This is one of those things that probably should get more attention in the sports world at large, But I do feel like I feel like it's been pretty good in that regard. It could always be better, but it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I think certainly when he tied it over the weekend, it really picked up, and there was just such an anticipation heading into the game yesterday. Now we'll see what happens, whether or not he gets to 900 by the end of the year. There's some thought out there, and I don't know how it's going to shake out. We'll see what happens, that now that he's broken the record, that this could be it for him in the NHL, and he may go and play in Russia next year. We'll see what actually ends up happening on that front. He's 39 years old. As you mentioned, 42 goals for him in 61 games this year. He broke his leg in the middle of the year, by the way, and he's still broken the record here. Look, it's an unbelievable accomplishment. I think a lot of people, as Stamkos pointed out, never thought that this record would get broken. There's a lot of records that Gretzky has that I think most people think won't get broken. The points record is going to be really difficult to break.
Yeah.
It's going to be, especially with the way the game is now, it's going to be almost impossible for somebody to break the all-time points record like Gretzky has. But the goals record was kind of right there. And now that he's done it at 895, number one, we'll see if he actually continues to play. And if he comes back next year, how much can he build on it? But you're looking around right now, Joe, and who's going to have a chance to break it? Austin Matthews, if he plays for a long time, maybe he'll get close. But I'm looking around, and it just doesn't seem like this is going to get broken for a while. So I know people said that with Gretzky, and then Ovechkin came along and broke it. So somebody at some point is probably going to come along and challenge this thing here. But in the meantime, what an accomplishment for him. And, as Stamkos pointed out, Ovechkin breaking the goals record, living up to the hype, Crosby still going at his age at 37. Like, those two guys really have been the face of the league for a while. And I know that other guys have now entered the fold, and McDavid and McKinnon and all those guys, but Ovechkin and Crosby, it's pretty unreal what they've done over the course of 20 years here.
Yeah, more than 2 decades, that they, when they came in, it was, the hype was incredibly high. There was always the comparison, of course, of those two and very different players, but the fact that they've both lived up to it. And frankly, there was a point, where Crosby and the Penguins were great, and like before the Capitals had won it, that I think it was it was kind of like Crosby, clearly like the much better player,
Yep.
Like the better all around great centerman, all that stuff. But now you get to this point and everything that Ovechkin has done. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Although Robert in Nashville does point out that he has 9 more empty net goals than Gretzky. So, so actually you need to get 9 more non-empty netters, Ovi, and then we can celebrate you.
Like, I thought this for a while, and now that it's official, I mean, he scored more goals in more game, or in the same amount of games than Gretzky scored. By the way, like, go back and watch. I'm not trying to take anything away from Gretzky because he was unbelievable and he's the greatest player of all time. So I get all that.
Fire wagon hockey,
but
baby.
Go back and watch the 80s and go back and watch Ovechkin's career in this era. It is way harder to score goals now than it was back then, and that just makes it all the more incredible what Ovechkin's done.
Yeah, but be careful because, like, the old heads will tell you, the whatever old era, those, it was these new players can't compare to that. Bigger, faster,
go back and watch
stronger,
some of those
better.
goalies. It's like they don't even move when the shot's taken. It's like, did you not see that puck coming in? Try to get a pad on it?
With their Friday the 13th hockey masks on.
Really cool stuff over the weekend. Shout out to Alex Ovechkin. As Aaron on the text line points out, he did give a nice shout out to Ilya Sorokin on the ice in his speech. He's like, yeah, thanks for letting me score, bud. Appreciate it.
Hey, he's part of history now.
He is.
Embrace it.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have Diana Rossini from The Athletic at 8 o'clock coming up. We'll get into all things Titans with her. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
And I'm going to egg your house. Egg your house.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 on the program. Diana Rossini will be with us coming up at 8 o'clock. With that in mind, Rexrode, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have become what I hate, which is the person who at a hotel takes the elevator to the second floor and then takes the elevator down from the second floor to the first floor. I used to get so mad, like if you're, staying in a place and it's like super busy, sometimes you get on an elevator, it's like, whatever, you're on the 12th floor and it stops at 9, it stops at 7, it keeps, and then, it's like, oh, now it's going a few floors and it stops at 2, and it's like, dude, just take the stairs. Stops at 2, people get on, you're like, great, thanks. I mean, you can't walk 10 steps. But here's the thing. Here at the La Quinta Riverwalk in San Antonio, there's no sign for the stairs near the elevator. Like, I have no idea. I've looked around. I mean, I know I could have gone to the front desk and actually asked somebody, but it's like there's no signage for any stairs. So I guess I'll just take the elevator. So today I get up, I say, okay, I'm going to figure out the stairs situation, because when I go get coffee, in between breaks, which I'll probably do after this segment, I want to, you don't want to be dependent on that elevator, because sometimes it does take too long and you're waiting and I mean, we cannot afford for me to miss any segments.
No, we can't.
I mean, the millions of listeners would not be okay with that. So I found on my floor, it was like, stairs this way so it says stairs to the lobby. I'm like, okay, now it's all the way down the end of the hall, which, but fine, take the stairs. So I go down the stairs and, I get to the bottom and there's no like door going toward the hotel. It's just a door that goes out. I'm like, so I open the door and I'm in the back of the parking lot. Like, no. So now it's 5:40 in the morning, and I'm like, I don't even know like which way to go to get to the front. I finally walk all the way around the hotel and go in the front door, and I'm like, what the hell? So I'm just going to continue to take the elevator. This is all part of this is one of those things I have to be very careful about complaining about this stuff, because like sometimes media do this stuff and it's like, just shut up. But like this is one thing that we've seen with all this stuff going on with the NCAA, which I think is two things. One, they're getting the pantsuit off of them. And two, they get ripped a lot by media. People like us rip them a lot. Is like the covering this tournament, and I go back to the 90s where it's like it used to be a very different situation in terms of hotels, like media buffets. So the food that we have at the Final Four, it's like they give you a voucher, and apparently on the first day some people got the cheeseburger and it really gave them problems. So it was like the first day, like, avoid the cheeseburger, don't eat the cheeseburger. I had a grilled chicken sandwich that like they ran out of mayonnaise, so I just had like a grilled chicken breast with a little bit of mustard on it as my food. And it used to be, again, it used to be like these huge buffets and really nice hotels and all that stuff. Again, I'm not complaining because
you got it rough down there.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Although it does suck to not get Marriott points, but it is a sign of the times, that the NCAA is kind of like, screw you guys. You guys, you can still show up. We do still get pretty good floor seating for this. That's another thing that obviously they've tried to take away and put in more. You go to any arena, just like with the Titan stuff, with the corporate seating, there's kind of that whole feel too in sports in general, which is like, these floor seats that used to be like media people. Yeah, let's go ahead and sell those and make more money. But again, I'm not complaining about that. I would
struggle down there for you.
Yeah, I know. I see. I knew if I got into this at all, I'd be like, "Oh, you poor little pampered sports writer." Yeah, I'm not. It's fine. It's fine. NCAA do like again. They're getting sued left and right. We got people suing them now. I mean, I think Zakai Ziegler should put in a lawsuit. It's like, hey, you're letting people have 5-year careers from now. Well, I'm getting screwed then.
Yeah.
I could have made. There's a kid from I think Charlotte suing. He has an offer for $1 million. Like you guys can't deny me that right. So everybody's suing them. Everybody's winning their lawsuits. We rip the crap out of them. I get it. It's fine. And but the only thing that's really the same through all this time is that if you try to take a beverage out to press row at an NCAA tournament event and you do not have it in an official NCAA cup, so in other words, it's not like one of their sponsors, dude, they could send you to The Hague. I mean, it's they do not, and that has not changed ever. That is one consistent thing. You damn well better not try that stuff.
Have you made sure to keep yourself out of the sacred spaces of the tunnel around there? I know that's a big problem earlier in the tournament. How's that going this weekend?
Yeah, no, it's a huge tunnel in the Alamo Dome. You know, this is a football stadium, although it's like the only thing they use this place for is like the Final Four every several years and like UTSA football, I think.
Yeah.
It
looks massive.
It just sits there. It's gigantic. So yeah, these tunnels, talk about a lot of sacred space. I mean, these tunnels are huge, but I have been very careful not to listen to what people are saying, not to record it. You know, this is private time for people when they get to that sacred space. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll be very careful of that tonight.
Does the La Quinta have a waffle maker? You know, I used to think that was the height of luxury at these hotels. If you walk downstairs for the complimentary breakfast and there was your very own waffle maker that you could pour the batter into, that's really what I define luxury in a hotel as.
They got 3.
Oh boy.
They got 3 waffle makers. Yeah. I haven't dug into that yet, but I probably won't today because I probably don't have time. But I may come back here next segment with some nice La Quinta liquid eggs for everybody to check out.
Good.
Yeah.
Get you some eggs. I mean, when the show's over, go take advantage of that waffle maker. It could be a big day for you.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I may have time. I think I may have time. I'm not usually a waffle guy, but I agree when you can actually like make your own. I mean, that is kind of sweet. Yeah.
There's no doubt.
No, you know what? It's fine. Other than stairs to the lobby or to the back parking lot.
There's the Alamo.
Other than that, it's a nice pool. They actually even have a little hotel bar.
Man.
So, and again, as I said at the beginning of the show, we got a freaking Denny's like 2 steps. Like you walk out of the front door and there's a Denny's right there. So, I mean, it's pretty sweet.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Diana Rossini from The Athletic will be with us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And say hello to our friend Diana Rossini from The Athletic. Diana, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm great. After a great weekend of sports, I used to cover the UConn women. That was my first big job in sports.
Nice.
I worked for NBC Connecticut, and it was all UConn women all day. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to get to ESPN if I just keep covering the UConn women. No one cares. Well, guess what? They care.
They sure do.
So it was pretty cool to see Gino win again. And then, of course, I also used to cover Alex Ovechkin in Washington when I worked there. So to see Ovi break the record and the start of Masters Week, and of course, all drafts. So I feel like it's just a good time in sports, you know?
I totally agree. I love this time of year. I can't wait for the Masters coming up. And like you said, an awesome weekend in the world of sports. So, Diana, from our vantage point, kind of looking in here, it seems pretty clear that the Titans are leaning Cam Ward at number 1 overall. And they canceled the workout with Shedeur Sanders over the weekend. So how do you view, I guess, the way that this is all set up here with the Titans not going out and getting a veteran quarterback of note that's going to be a threat to start games? Is it as simple as Cam Ward? How do you view like this decision and how it's viewed by the Titans organization?
Yeah, I think they've been doing tons of work on these quarterbacks, knowing that they want to get a guy and bring him in for the future. And this going back to probably even checking out film of these guys during the season, just to make sure they know everything about each of these guys. And I had always gotten the sense that Cam Ward was going to be their choice in terms of if you had to rank the quarterbacks that Tennessee liked. So obviously knowing that they canceled the Shedeur Sanders private workout almost as a courtesy of, look, we're not going to waste time. We know what we want. We know what direction we're going in. We've watched you plenty. We know what we need to know. So here they are now taking a big swing on a quarterback, it appears, right? I think most people around the league, believe that this is the direction the Tennessee Titans are going to go in. I was at the owners meeting last week talking with some people part of the organization, and look, no one's going to tell you to your face, yes, we've decided, it is set in stone internally, but you definitely get a sense that they're excited about this and that this is the direction they're going to go in. I do know that there are other teams hoping that they pick up the phone, that the Titans answer their call and maybe are able to at least consider a trade to get up there, to get number 1, or at least to pick number 1 overall, as we know that there's some quarterback desperate teams right now. But I think as things stand right now, I feel pretty good that this is the direction the Titans are going to go in, and they feel good about it.
Did you get the sense, Diana, that I don't know if disagreement's the right way to characterize it, but that there were some in the organization who at some point were more in favor of looking to trade down? I mean, it felt like at the combine around that time that, it seemed like around the league, it was sort of like the feeling that, the Titans were probably looking to do that. And obviously all signs point to Cam now. Like, do you feel like there's been different viewpoints on that? And also, I guess that they've sort of just evolved into Cam as the answer.
Yeah, that's a good read by you, because you're right. At the combine, I definitely left Indianapolis thinking, okay, phone lines are open. Like they're going to talk this out. And I think they're doing this the right way, where they are listening and they have listened to offers. But I think when they're looking at the organization as a whole and what's best for them, they have that strong of a belief in what Cam Ward can do for them. And I think the belief that they also even have in their head coach and Brian Callahan and what he can do in terms of an offense and helping, we'll call it just groom a young quarterback in his system to have success. So yeah, do I think that there was healthy conversation internally? I know that there was about what should they do? What's the best for the future and even the present of the Tennessee Titans? And when you look at the people in charge, you look at their backgrounds, you look at how they do things at the organizations that they were before they were in Tennessee. Collecting picks was the style, was the way to go. So of course it was on the table of, hey, this is what I know. Here's what I know works. But when you've got a quarterback that you believe in, you're gonna pick that over those picks unless it's something so outrageous, so over the top, which at this point I don't see a team that's willing to give that much to move Tennessee off that. Of course, we've got a little over 2 weeks before this all goes down, but I think everyone feels pretty good that Cam Ward is the guy for Tennessee.
So, Diana, as you're well aware, I mean, it's been a heck of a shuffle in the Titans front office with their power structure over the last couple of years. You had Robinson in, Robinson out, Vrabel gets fired, and now you've got Rand Carthon out and Mike Borgonzi coming in with Chad Brinker and that dynamic. They've hired Reggie McKenzie and Dave Ziegler. And it's a different way that they're trying to go about doing things here. So what do you make of, as you sift through kind of the wreckage here of how this has all ended up, what do you make of the current power structure in place for the Titans and the way that they're trying to go about things here under Amy Adams Strunk?
It just goes to show you how quickly things can change, because when we would talk, when I would see you at Titans practices years ago, it was such a steady ship, right? With John Robinson as the general manager and Mike Vrabel, the head coach. There weren't a lot of firings. There was change, right? Because we know that, offensive coordinators moved on, whether it was Matt LaFleur, Arthur Smith. But everything was steady there. The problem was, I think, roster building. I think it was finding really good players and putting themselves in some tough positions, and obviously trading away some key players like A.J. Brown. So to go from a time when the Titans were very clear with who they were and what they were to now, which I think my biggest question I have about Tennessee, and I would ask them directly if they were in front of me right now, is what are they? What are the Titans? What are the 2025 Titans? Because I wasn't even sure what the 2024 Titans were. But I had a fantastic conversation with Coach Callahan during the Senior Bowl, just about that first year, about what that was like for him, how much he learned. And, collectively around the league, one of my favorite conversations is actually that type of conversation of talking to a coach after his first year. And it is mind blowing how much they learn and how much they grow, almost like players when you see them take that big step in their second season. I think you're going to get a different version of Brian Callahan. I think when you lose the way he did and you're open to listening to a lot of people, you realize the best way to go about conducting a team and leading is to do it the way that and you tend to gravitate towards listening and being open because you want to be collaborative. But at the end of the day, someone's got to make the call, someone's got to be the decision maker, and someone's got to lead. And I think that's the version of Brian Callahan we're going to see, which then can maybe help answer the question that I have, which is, what are they? Who are they going to be? Are they going to be that tough team that we saw years ago? Are they going to be really skilled and talented? And I just think with all the change, something needs to settle. I get questions all the time about Brian Callahan's future. Is he on the hot seat this year? I have a hard time believing ownership wants to go through another change after so many over the last few seasons. So I think, despite the fact that we usually see general managers come in and want to bring their own guys, I think Mike Borgonzi is going to try to make this work with Brian Callahan and hope that they're going to get the best version of the Titans. But I can tell you around the league, the belief in what Mike Borgonzi can bring to Tennessee, just from based on what he knows and has learned on his way up. He's obviously paid his dues. That's being applauded for that hire. So while I think it's hard to hear ownership moving on and letting go and being all in on Rand and, appeared to be all in on Mike Vrabel, and then boom, they're gone, and, Rand's gone, and then Mike's gone. I think for right now, they feel settled in this setup. We just have to see what it's going to look like.
So, Diana, you and Chase Daniel on the Awesome Scoop City podcast talking about the Browns. I mean, I think we all would agree, Cam Ward, 1 to the Titans. It would be shocking if there's any other outcome. But the Browns at 2, fascinating. Still a lot of ways they could go at quarterback. What do you think that looks like right now?
I just feel like we're at a point where there's so many different situations that can play out. I do think, with Cam Ward most likely going to Tennessee, you have to wonder what Cleveland's going to do. And the Shedeur Sanders element in all this, I just find really interesting, because you look at Cleveland and, They've got Kenny Pickett on their roster. I don't believe Deshaun Watson's going to be able to play this year, obviously because he re-injured himself. So where do they go at quarterback if they don't have conviction that Shador Sanders is the guy? Well, then you probably go veteran quarterback market. I look, Joe Flacco had success there with Kevin Stefanski years ago, but they never brought him back. So I'm not sure where that stands. I know a few weeks ago, I don't believe that they were having any conversations. And then, of course, you got the Kirk Cousins element in all of this, where he's in Atlanta. He obviously played under Kevin Stefanski as his offensive coordinator when they were together in Minnesota. So could a trade maybe perhaps be in place if they don't go quarterback? And then you got the New York Giants, who I think are making moves that make you wonder, all right, well, you signed 2 veteran quarterbacks in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, essentially combined contractually. What are they making? 16, 15? That's like a bridge quarterback salary. They could still go quarterback here in the draft. And then, you look at their situation of Brian Dable and Joe Shane on the hot seat. They are clearly on the hot seat, not from any information. It's all from public information that you see their owner talk about them, right? Like, you don't have to dig that hard. You just hear how the owner talks about them. He's not happy. So you have to wonder, just, are they willing to roll the dice here and hope that Shador nails? When you have conversations with people watching these workouts and are doing so much work on this, it's crazy how all over the map I'm getting just, we'll call it report cards on Shador. I know one organization that sees him going in the top 3. Then I have another who doesn't even think he's a top 10. So I think it's so fluid right now, which I think is fair. And I think you guys get it and people listening understand it at this point. I think the Browns are still trying to figure out what they want to do. I think the Giants are still trying to figure out what they want to do. And I think this stuff, Shador could slide depending on where they go. If the Browns decide that they want to go best player available or perhaps trade out.
Well, Diana, you're really kind with your time as always. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. And we've almost made it to draft time. Enjoy the next few weeks and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Diana Rossini, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode from The Athletic. We'll react to what Diana Rossini had to say. Take your thoughts on all things Titans. We will have Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up at 8 o'clock as well, 8:30 as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Yeah, I think they've been doing tons of work on these quarterbacks, knowing that they want to get a guy and bring him in for the future. And this going back to probably even checking out film of these guys during the season, just to make sure they know everything about each of these guys. And I had always gotten the sense that Cam Ward was going to be their choice in terms of if you had to rank the quarterbacks that Tennessee liked. So obviously knowing that they canceled the Shedeur Sanders private workout almost as a courtesy of, look, we're not going to waste time. We know what we want. We know what direction we're going in. We've watched you plenty. We know what we need to know. So here they are now taking a big swing on a quarterback, it appears, right? I think most people around the league, believe that this is the direction the Tennessee Titans are going to go in.
That's Diana Rossini with us in the last segment. Appreciate her taking some time to be with us this morning. Joe, interesting to talk about the Cam Ward part of this. Now, we spoke earlier in the show about the Titans canceling the workout with Shedeur Sanders, which signals, it's looking pretty obvious that Cam Ward is going to be their pick. It was interesting to hear Diana kind of run through the timeline there, too, because as you pointed out, a lot of the conversation coming out of the combine was that Tennessee was open to trading the pick and that the Titans may want to move down. And it feels like things have shifted since then based on their actions of not picking up a starting level quarterback in free agency. Now you've canceled the private workout with Shedeur Sanders. So it feels like along the way here, as they've dug deeper into the Cam Ward front, that they've really liked what they've seen. It feels clear to me, Joe, that the meetings that they've had with Cam Ward have really gone a long way here in terms of their interest. And now everybody from us to Diana Rossini to I think everybody around the league at this point would be stunned if he's not the number one overall pick for the Titans.
Yeah, at this point, it's a complete shocker if 2 weeks from Thursday it's not Cam Ward. You pointed out earlier in the show, we are still before the timeline of the big trade 9 years ago. To get out of one, which of course was a team trading out of one that had just drafted a quarterback at the top of the draft at 2 overall a year earlier. So It was, very different situation. But however it came about, and again, we will hear to some degree how this was always the choice, top guy on the board, all that stuff. Team, that's what teams say. But however it came about, pretty clear that they've gotten to this. Or, as you also said earlier, the most amazing smoke screen job ever, as they, whatever.
They really deserve a lot of credit.
Trade out. Yeah, it would be truly just a beautiful job of fooling everybody. Take Shedeur, trade out, take Travis Hunter, Abdul Carr, whatever. Anything other than Cam Ward to the Titans at 1 overall right now is just like, what in the world are you talking about?
What did you make of what Diana had to say on the Brian Callahan front? I found that interesting. I think if you're a Titans fan listening to it, you think to yourself, well, ownership may have an idea of the way they want things to go moving forward. But if we've learned anything over the last few years, it's that maybe an idea of how they want things to go and then the actuality of actually going through it may change things pretty quickly in terms of how Amy Adams Strunk views the job security of Brian Callahan. But it sounded like from what Diana threw out there that, maybe not a huge appetite to moving on from him after this year and that you want to give it some staying power, which frankly, like, as we've talked about, especially if you're drafting Cam Ward, I think makes a lot of sense to not just uproot the entire first year of what he's learning out there immediately, unless it's just an abject disaster out there with Brian Callahan. But some interesting stuff there from Rossini on the Callahan front. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, very interesting. And look, I think this comes down to, like she mentioned there, you have a new GM, you automatically go to, okay, so who's his guy as a coach?
Right.
So you could look at Brinker or Borgonzi and say, does either of them, have someone in mind or someone that they'd like to bring in? But to me, that's just bad management of a football franchise. If you're not just going to fire this guy now and do that, if you're going to go into this year, to me, it makes no sense to look at it like this is just a lame duck coach situation. So let's just throw away a year with the rookie. with the rookie. You're gonna make this quarterback your face of your franchise. And by the way, this coach is on thin ice, and we probably have somebody else in mind we'd rather have. Then just fire him. He should have fired him. So, I mean, I hope she's right. I hope that that's how they're looking at it. I hope that it really is like Borgonzi really does. Like they want this to work out. It's why would you waste a year otherwise? Like this idea that they, again, Brinker wanted to move. That may be true. Maybe Brinker at one point thought about it. However you want to characterize it. It doesn't mean that right now he's still sitting there like, man, I can't wait to fire this guy. That would be stupid. That would be incredibly stupid. And frankly, I don't really buy it. I don't really buy that these guys are just biding their time to get rid of Brian Callahan. Now, I think he has to prove himself this year. It's a huge year for him. And then, of course, we don't know with ownership. I mean, we also know that Amy Adams Strunk herself could just decide to do something. But I don't know. I get the feeling, Robbie, maybe I'm just overreacting to like, excuse me. I guess these like Quinta eggs have really attacked my immune system. Maybe I'm overreacting to like how things are being presented publicly, but it feels a little bit like she's pulling back a little bit and saying, okay, you guys deal with this, figure out what you think it should be. Again, I could be wrong, and we could have another firing that she just decides to do in a year, but I kind of get that feeling.
I kind of get that feeling too, but it's also to the point with her, Joe, that I think I'll believe it when I see it. Like, let's go through the process of next year and see what it looks like. And I think I'll believe it. Like if they go 5-12, I'll believe it when I see it, when she doesn't just go off the handle and make some firing out there. I think she's earned that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's I mean, we'll be waiting for the other shoe to drop if that's how the season goes. And again, how the season goes, I mean, Brian Callahan does have a lot to prove. So, like, if it turns out there's a lot of the same issues, and certainly if there's a lot of the same issues, plus it's an underwhelming year for Cam Ward as a rookie, then look, I mean, it's on the table, and I think it's fair. But I'm just saying that right now, the mindset of this organization should be we're all in on Brian Callahan and Cam Ward being a partnership for years to come, because that's why Brian Callahan got this job in the first place. Didn't work out with the first guy. Blame whoever you want, but he gets this chance, and it's going to be a real opportunity to do it. That's what the mindset of the franchise should be. Otherwise, it's just a bad losing franchise mindset.
102.5 The Game and Green River Whiskey have teamed up to give away tickets to see Lainey Wilson at Bridgestone Arena in the all-inclusive Eurostone Club coming up on Thursday, October 2nd. Tune in to Chase and Big Joe today during the 9 o'clock hour for the keyword to text in for your chance to win tickets. Green River Whiskey, sit back, relax, and bourbon. Green River Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. Alcohol volume varies by product. Please drink responsibly. We'll be joined by Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the NFL draft and the Titans. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Just grateful to realize you guys moved me in the batting lineup to clean up today.
It's true.
So because some people need someone hitting behind them to make them look better.
That's true.
I can do that for people.
Well, you are very versatile. There's no doubt about that. Just a versatile guy you can put anywhere in the lineup.
That's why Rabel liked me, because he loved versatility and he loved me.
Yep. Vrabel loved Nick Westbrook-Akine, Aaron Brewer, and Corey Curtis. Those were really his three guys here.
They're all tough as $3 steaks.
That's right.
I would say I was tasty as a $2 steak.
So, Corey, I want to start here. Kuharski put something out over the weekend about PSL sales going well for the Titans and maybe better than they expected. And I think you can view that a couple different ways. Like we heard from some Titans fans, in the immediate aftermath that say, how? Like the prices are outrageous. The team is terrible. Yeah. How are the PSL sales going well? And then you look at it and, it's the bright, shiny new toy with a new stadium, and it's more than just Titans football that's coming into the stadium. So when you hear that, are you surprised that sales apparently are going very, very well, maybe even better than the Titans thought heading into all this? And what's kind of your view on that?
Well, I think even if they weren't going better than they thought, I think it's good business to say they're going better than we thought. Okay, that's number one, because you want your product to be in demand. Number two, if you were a current PSL holder, they did offer deals that did make it somewhat palatable to rebuy your PSL and get back into the stadium. Also, you cut the number of seats by 10,000, so you don't have to sell quite as many. So the math is a little bit different there. But the other thing I'll get back to is it's a good investment, right? Because prices only go up. And so your PSL is going to become worth more. Your tickets will become worth more. And it can be an investment. I mean, guys, Taylor Swift does one show there. And if you've got 4 tickets because you're in a priority list, because you're a season ticket holder and able to get those tickets, you can make a lot of money on those tickets. If you want to sell half your game tickets to Packer fans and Bills fans and Jets fans who flood into Nashville, you can make much of your money back. There's good business to be had by owning those seats and not just going to those games. Now, as we all know, it takes money to be an investor. You can't be an investor without money. And so I think, from that aspect, there's a lot more people in Nashville now because our population has gone up with a lot more businesses who have money and can make, that investment. It might not be the average person, but there are other people who can do that and understand it as a possibility, to make money. And, hopefully the one argument that I brought up that I haven't brought up that stands is people understand they're not going to stink forever. And that, these things happen to most teams, even the Patriots stink. So it happens. And so they won't stink forever. And if you're a fan of the team, you're a fan of the team, and you can still buy tickets if that's the way you want to spend your money.
So, Corey, at this point, is there any doubt left in your mind that with all we've seen, including now the cancellation of the private workout with Shedeur Sanders, that the Titans are taking Cam Ward number 1?
I would leave like a 3% window that it wouldn't be Cam Ward, that somebody comes in with an astronomical trade and they decide to go with picks in Sanders or Hunter or whatever. But it would seem hard to believe. And I know Deion's kind of a no BS guy. And I mean, what do you think happened? Do you think, hey, if you're going to pick him, or seriously, if you're thinking about picking him, work him out, but if you're going to take Ward, we're not going to work out? Is that what you think happened?
Maybe. Could be. Hey, yeah. I mean, or the Titans were just like, they just decided to do it on their own. But yeah, I mean, I think that's plausible for sure. Kind of like, okay, do we need to spend more time, or like, do you guys know what you're doing? Let's just go ahead and not waste any more time. I think I could see that.
What do you think of him dirting the last throw?
I don't know. I mean, not something you typically see at a pro day. I mean, there's the other thought, Corey, on the pro day was apparently a couple throws. The ball a little bit wobbly, cut him out of his hands. We were really getting in the pro day analyzation over the weekend. A little wobbly.
Well, I mean, one is the ball comes out of his hand a little wobbly. One's a choice.
That's true.
One's a choice to not try to make it happen, on your pro day. And maybe I'm being hypercritical.
Good awareness. Not throwing the ball into traffic.
Yeah, but it's a pro day. You're trying to show off.
I don't know. I haven't seen that one before at a pro day. So how far do you think he could slide? That's the other. I think he's probably the most interesting story in the draft because he could very well go 2 to Cleveland, and then he could very well slide like into the middle of first round. Like I have no idea where Shedeur Sanders is going to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there are some people who think he's worthy of a top 5 pick, but there are a lot of people who think he's a late first, early second. So I guess it depends. I always said it takes one team. All right. But there are a number of teams that are quarterback needy. The Jets, the Steelers, the Saints. What about the Saints? Did they pick like 8 or 9?
They're 9th. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't take them off the board, for Shedeur Sanders because, they've made it clear, they're going with Derek Carr, but they didn't give that a ringing endorsement. I think they're just financially saddled, to him right now. So I would be surprised to see him get out of the first round, but it's just a matter of, how far the slide is. Like Justin Fields slid to 15, and then the Bears traded up when he was still available. I think it was to 15, to get him. So I wouldn't be surprised, if he slid, if somebody traded up into the top 15 to get him. So I guess I'd be surprised if he made it out of the top 15, but I certainly wouldn't expect to see him get past 21 to Pittsburgh.
So, Corey, we talked to Diana Rossini, who, of course, you are now sending home with a double down the line, down the right field line.
She got the easy questions from you, and, you guys, coming at me.
That's true. Exactly. Coming up with a knuckle curve here. But no, she mentioned, the idea of, the patience with Brian Callahan of, people may think, new GM wants his own guy. We've all talked a lot about Callahan on the hot seat, but kind of, basically said that she thinks Borgonzi wants to work out with Callahan, which again, to me, it's like, yeah, he should, or else then you fire him already. But what do you think of that? And also the idea that, is it possible if Amy Adams Strunk, who obviously publicly is just completely going recluse now, but may pull back a little bit and kind of let these guys deal with it? How do you feel about, let them make the hard football decisions? How do you feel about Brian Callahan's security?
Well, I mean, look, they went 3-14, and do I think he's entirely to blame? No. I mean, we all saw the plays that weren't made and plays that were there to be made that weren't made, and that's not entirely, on the coach. But ultimately, it's like being commander of the enterprise. You're responsible for conduct of crew, and so at some point, you're responsible, for winning and losing. I think, it's possible to say first year and subpar quarterback play, subpar play here. We got to. It's like giving a young quarterback a chance with personnel around him. You got to give the coach some personnel around him to get a better view of things. As I recall, there was a coach in New England who didn't win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. So I think personnel does matter. But at the same time, I was talking to Teron about this. Do you feel like, I feel like, Callahan's there. I think Callahan's getting his input, but I don't think he's anything close to the draft process like he was last year.
I think that's fair. And they also there's so many freaking people in the front office now. It's hard to, it's an incredible amount of people involved in this decision making.
Yeah. And so they said it's going to be a discussion But I think that's their job. All right. And so I think they've got the front office. It's their job to buy the groceries. And I think it's Callahan's job to cook with them. And I think that's the traditional model. It's the model that I personally think, works better. And so now that he's their coach, I think, they will give him a chance. But guys, I agree. I think the best thing for the Titans, the best thing for Mike Borgonzi is that he has a winning coach and that he doesn't have to deal with that. But if they go 3-14 again, guys, we'll have a new head coach next year. I don't think there's much question about that.
So are you throwing it out there? Are we going from let Rand cook to let Callahan cook? Is that what you're dubbing here?
Let Callie cook?
I'm not dubbing anything. It's just, how about this? Do your job. That's what everybody needs to do. In the words of Hurt Brooks, do your job. Yeah. Play your game. All right. That's what everybody just needs to do. And look, you can lose, and people say they're doing their job and they're getting better. They just don't have enough of this. But there's a difference between that and guys looking unprepared, guys being sloppy. Penalties are preventable. Okay. I think last year the penalties were one of the really bad things that if I were Brian Callahan, I would want to clean up, because penalties happen when you're not prepared, when your fundamentals are wrong and you're in a bad position, or you're just not concentrating enough and you're not focused enough on the task at hand. And, those are, usually preventable things. There's a reason a lot of the really good teams, and when Vrabel came in, weren't they like one of the least penalized teams in the league?
I believe so. I believe that is correct.
Yeah. And then like the last couple of years, didn't those penalties go up?
They did. They had Andre Dillard trying to hold everybody.
Yeah. Well, as the personnel got worse, the penalties went up because their physical abilities to do things weren't as good. And so, they've got to get better players, number one, but they've got to get that discipline back where they're not committing penalties. That, to me, that is something that is coachable. And that takes you out of bad situations. So people have to do their jobs. And if they don't do their jobs, and, look, you can argue we saw that with Rand. They went 3-14. If you don't do your job, you're going to be looking for another job.
Corey, a truly cleanup-worthy performance by you today here on the program. We appreciate so much your time and you being flexible with us, and we will talk to you next week.
Well, I got my torpedo bat, and
good to see.
I had a 3-0 fastball, and I said, "Damn the torpedoes," and we just let it rip.
You smoked it.
Nice.
Yeah. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Thank you, Corey.
All right, later, ladies.
Corey Curtis from News 2, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Corey had to say, plus some news on the program that we'll get to coming up next. A lot to get to, actually, here in the next few minutes. Some news from Adam Schefter as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament. Cromwell Media, along with Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor, proud to announce we'll be back at Hermitage Golf Course coming up on Thursday, May 29th. To make a difference while having a great time, you can join us and a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians as we raise money for Folds of Honor. Donation will go to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. You can sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Once again, 615open.com. Joe, some news on the Abdul Carter front. Schefter putting this out there earlier this morning. Apparently that Abdul Carter had breakfast with Brian Daboll on Sunday. So that's where we're at in the draft process. Abdul Carter had breakfast with Brian Daboll on Sunday, and he also figures to be a top three pick. So Schefter putting the breaking stuff out there. What, do you think they had a waffle maker wherever they went for breakfast?
I don't know. Someone pointed out to me that there's 3 waffle makers here and Jeff Bezos only has 1, so I should stop complaining. I'd like to know if Abdul Carter limped as he went up to the line to get eggs or didn't.
Good question. Was he able to grab the eggs with the shoulder? There's a lot of things we got to figure out
too. Here. Yeah. Did Daboll scoop the eggs out for him?
Maybe so. What a good guy he'd be if he did that. Kind of helping on the sales pitch front there. Not that there's anything to sell if you draft someone.
Building a good culture.
Yeah.
Real quick, you mentioned the sales. I know still he's yelling at me about taking the Titans' word for it on the sales. So okay. Maybe that's a preview of what's to come today, but
we'll see.
I told him, I have heard, that they've gone well. I think that they are actually going well, but I don't have the sales sheet in front of me, so I can't tell you that for sure.
I can only react to what we've heard. I got some tickets to give away to see Pierce the Veil at Nashville Municipal Auditorium on Wednesday, June 4th. Be caller number 3. Caller number 3 will win tickets to see Pierce the Veil at Nashville Municipal Auditorium on Wednesday, June 4th. It is an end of an era on our program this week. Keezer, you have a quick announcement to make as we go through the rest of this week here.
Yeah, I'll get this quickly before we get caller number 3 here, Robby. But yeah, this will be my final week on the program, and it's been a great last couple of years with you guys and getting to hang out with you every day. And looking forward to Ian Safar to take over this program, and waking up early listening to you guys will be a pleasure. But I leave it in good hands to him, and I'm on to some great things in the sports world. I plan on being a reporter, and if that's in the NHL soon, that would be great. And if it's elsewhere, that'd be great as well. But yeah, this has been a great stepping stone for me in my career, and we'll see where it takes me, guys. But we'll have a fun week ahead of us, and Friday will be very bittersweet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, got more time with you this week, and we'll get into that a little bit later throughout the week. But very proud of Nick Keezer and the work that he's done here on the program. We will have Ian Safar joining us next week. So bittersweet week this week here on the show. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. We will be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Robby didn't let me say anything about Nick.